Hi, and welcome to a extra little commentary video here. I will be talking about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. There will be spoilers, so consider this your spoiler warning. I am warning you about spoilers. You have been sufficiently warned. Now, before we get into it, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my younger brother who early last week invited me to go see it. Um, that caught me by surprise, but it was like really cool, really awesome that he extended that invitation, and I greatly appreciate it because he knows I'm a huge Ghostbusters fan. Um, uh, and I'm not even kidding. This is the first film I've seen in theaters since Suicide Squad back in 2016, and it's the third film in the Ghostbusters franchise that I've had the opportunity to see on the big screen. The other two being Ghostbusters Answer the Call back in 2016, and then before that, Ghostbusters 2 back in 1989. Which will always hold a special place in my heart because shortly after I saw Ghostbusters 2 as a kid, my younger brother was born. So that family connection there is like means a lot to me. And things of involving family continues to be the big theme as it was with Ghostbusters Afterlife a few years ago. Uh, Family is a big importance in Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, where we have like Paul Rudd's Gary Grubison is like the awkwardness of like, okay, he wants to step into being a more of a fatherly figure, but he doesn't know his bounds with Phoebe, and like he has several moments, awkward moments where he wants to put his foot down of sorts, but he doesn't know like should he or shouldn't he because it's like that stepfather stepdaughter dynamic there. He's like he's more comfortable being a buddy, but at the same time he knows what needs to be done. And also it's like how he wants to reach out to her, like give her that confidence, and it's like and help her through some of the things that Phoebe is going through over the course of this film, where she's feeling like she is being ostracized because she is a teenager. She is not. She's essentially still a kid. Which is a lot of like the things where that we saw that was established in Afterlife, that Phoebe does have a rebellious streak, that she will talk back to her mother, that she does have a problem with authority figures, as given her reaction to wanting to use a proton wand, excuse me, on a cop in Afterlife. And again, that's also as well as her interactions with Walter Peck in a couple major scenes in Frozen Empire. But at the same time, you have to understand is like it's people actually looking out for her, but she wants to grow up super fast, and folks are telling her to like slow down, enjoy your youth while you have it, because once it's gone, it's gone. And while that is not said outright, it is certainly implied to different degrees here. And I mentioned him already. Walter Peck for me steals the show. His character clearly has matured of sorts from when we last saw him on screen back in 1984's Ghostbusters. And again, he shows amazing restraint, because you could easily have said that like, okay, he's the mayor, and considering how everything with the sewer dragon chase and the damage that was done, he would have been justified in shutting the Ghostbusters operations down just based on the damage that was done to the city. Now, I'm kind of curious, is like, did he come to accept that the Ghostbusters provide a service, a much needed service regarding ghost inspectors and stuff, even if he does not approve of the operation, and everything is may have how it clearly did not affect his career in any way, because he's gone from like a member of the the New York EPA in the third district to being the city mayor. So it did not affect his career in a negative way. I guess whatever grudge he has with Peter Venkman still holds true to a very, very large degree. But Peck shows amazing restraint that he puts into it, like, okay, that he allows Callie, Gary, and Trevor, like, okay, Trevor's 18 and it's like, okay, they're adults. So it's like, and they're operating the business. He puts the onus on Phoebe in terms of like, okay, you're a minor, you can't be going out there doing everything of the causing the damage. Is like, if you do, we're going to have to like shut it down because it's a minor operating in a piece of equipment that is basically that is a nuclear accelerator and that has already caused a fair amount of damage with some recklessness, and so you get some like so Phoebe being benched so that the others can continue being Ghostbusters and continue the business of sorts. Again, to appease Walt to appease the mayor is actually really cool. And I also like the other scene that when it's like because Phoebe's story arc of feeling like she's too young, and then you got Dan Aykroyd's Ray Stantz wanting to still be involved, wanting like he doesn't want to like retire. He doesn't just want to like just enjoy the golden years. Like he wants to still be a Ghostbuster even at his advanced age. It has a nice parallel there because they both get like nice big payoffs. Well, Ray essentially has like an argument with Winston. Winston telling Ray is like it's like go on the beach, enjoy retirement, enjoy your golden years. You don't have to be out there in the field. Ray tells him that he wants to, and then it's what he wants to do with his golden years. So you get there's a nice little parallel there, um, because again it all ties because Ray those scenes ties with Phoebe's in a large degree, and then you have Phoebe basically being blamed outright by Peck, saying it's like, how does it? It's like he tells her outright, it's because of you that he is dropping the hammer, because of an essence involving the destruction of a lion in front of the New York City Public Library there. So you have all these nice little parallels there, and you got like nice building blocks there. And again, Walter Peck is right for doing it. It's like he warned them, like, okay, if Phoebe is doing anything, it's like it's going to affect like the Ghostbusters operation. So it's like they were warned in a way, and like Phoebe makes like major mistakes, and of course atones for it to her own degree. So with that all said, the other big thing here with Phoebe is her interaction with the ghost Melody, which ties into the big bad and Phoebe more or less being manipulated. I don't want to say Phoebe's being manipulated into what is it? She is, but she isn't. It's just like it's pure coincidence that she happens to like know that there is like there is the MacGuffin machine that okay temporarily can separate a person's spirit from their body for a couple of minutes. Essentially, the out of body experience machine is what we want to call it. So that the big bad can be Garaka can be released from its brass ball prison. So that kind of ties together in a way, but it also gives like this what is essentially the uh, the uh, the friendship that Phoebe thought that was she was having with Melody. Uh, like it has its payoffs, but and I know a lot of folks, particularly the folks over on Watch Mojo, were really hoping for something else to happen, which says a lot about Watch Mojo involving to a large degree there. but Be that what it may, but I thought the payoff and everything there was, again, because Melody's character growth is tied to Phoebe's as well, so it all connects to a very very large degree there. It's like Janine Milnitz, Winston, Peter Venkman, and all have they have like the nice little individual moments. Nothing major. Venkman being brought in for his expertise to deal with the other character. Speaking of family moments, I forgot about Nadim, who who has his own character arc in terms of being the quote black sheep of the of his family. Like, didn't have a great relationship with his grandmother. Discovers that she has some apparent valuables, and like just goes off to start selling things to make a quick buck. But he has a nice little character growth and has ends up getting like a nice respect for his family. And I thought the character of Nadim was like, okay, like for a comedic effect, and is like to have like an actual outsider character who has his own set of abilities that again plot that are again tied heavily to to dealing with the big bad villain in form of Garaka was really well done, and it didn't feel forced. It's like because again we saw his character growth over the course of the film. You get the full hint of his pyrotechnique, his pyrokinetic uh, abilities. It's hinted at fairly early once we meet this character, and it's built up upon. And a great little theme. It's like folks know, if you watch my videos beginning to end, I tend to fling my pen at the towards the camera uh, at the end of most of my videos, where I'm doing little commentary pieces. And so it's like I love that little scene of Venkman, this constantly throwing the pen. Is like when he notices the connection between Nadim and the fire. Is like proves to be like a great little. It's like a great little moment there. It's like it goes to shows like Venkman's way of figuring something out. Which actually raises a question to me regarding his original shock experiment regarding the cards in the first film. Sure, he was shocking the because when you think, I think back to that scene now. Like, what did he say was his theory? Like the negative effect on latent ESP abilities. And the guy responded, says like the effect is pissing me off. But when you think about that scene, it's like he Venkman's flirting with the blonde co-ed, but the guy who was being the test subject and getting shocked was actually kind of proving his theory was correct. That okay, if you have some negative stimuli, like it is tying into those like latent hidden abilities that someone might have in regards to like within the context of the Ghostbusters world. So thinking about it like that, huh? It could be a complete coincidence. But remember, the dude that was getting shocked in the 1984 film did get it right. Maybe again, pure coincidence that he did say that it was a couple wavy lines before Venkman shocked him that final time. So potentially it was working. And it's like Venkman says, "Well, maybe my theory, what was it? Maybe my theory was correct." And it's like you keep the $5. Um, it's like I will, Mister. So it's like I can think about it, and it's just thinking about his Venkman scene with Nadim here in Frozen Empire. It's like it's like mind blown theory, but it kind of relates to Venkman's whole MO and like how he does things, like using negative stimuli to like provoke a reaction, and then when he realizes something. So it's kind of cool in that regard. Um, A lot of the ghost designs, I like the sewer dragon, Garaka, and a lot of the other ghosts that we got to see, which were pretty cool. You have this the cages of ghosts in this separate this aquarium facility that was been turned into like an off-site containment facility and research lab, and seeing a number of different ghosts like containing there was actually really cool. It's like none of them, like you got the little avocado looking thing was pretty neat. And then you had there was this one big one that's like was in shadow, but like poke its head out through the shadow, had like a wicked cool design. And then you have Slimer in and of himself. Slimer was looking rather chunky. Like I think in terms of physical appearance, is like in terms of size, I think this is the largest Slimer has been ever been depicted. And I think because the largest we've ever seen Slimer was an episode of the real Ghostbusters where he split into millions of little Slimer who like get reformed into a giant King Kong Godzilla sized version of himself. Y'all probably know the episode I'm thinking of where Slimer is like ends up turning blue and has like a bit of a villainous or regresses into a bit more of a villainous state. And there was a running joke about everybody moving to Pittsburgh. I forget the name of that. I want to say Big Trouble with Little Slimer was the name of that episode, but I think I'm wrong, and I'm thinking of something else there. As I'm totally getting sidetracked there. But Slimer getting a fair amount of screen time, and like his size, he is freaking huge in comparison to how we saw him in Ghostbusters '84 in the first film, and certainly in comparison to how he looked in Ghostbusters 2. I'll say he's actually bigger than how he appears in Ghostbusters Answer the Call, to a very large degree. Big question is like, why is he taking up residence in the Ghostbusters attic at the firehouse? Like, not really explained unless you factor in like the an episode of the real Ghostbusters where it's like, oh, the Ghostbusters were like the first people that paid attention to him to any degree, and so he's lurking around the firehouse because he was hanging around the firehouse in Ghostbusters 2. But Slimer also has a big thing because since we know he was hanging around the firehouse back in Ghostbusters 2, there was a subplot from that film that was supposed to feature Rick Moranis' character of Louis Tully. You know, his first encounter with Slimer and wanting to bust him. And that eventually had the big payoff with Slimer like helping Louis get to the Museum of Art. It's like, you know, we see Slimer as a bus driver. So here we are, years later, decades later, Slimer is still hanging out in the firehouse on, well, apparently eating very well, just judging by the number of candy wrappers and junk food wrappers that he has for himself, like his nice little hubble in the attic space, which raises the questions like, who's been giving Slimer all those treats? Like, where is he getting them from? Which raises which raises a question in and of itself. But then you have like Trevor having the encountering Slimer after investigating some weird goop dripping down from the ceiling, and it's like, oh, he gets slimed. It's like he sets out to wanting to trap Slimer, doing a little bait with stuff with Cheetos, leading towards the trap, getting slimed again, and then it has the big payoff where Slimer actually like helps save the day of sorts, or at least gets involved in the film's climax by eating a possessed pizza. I am not making that up, and for me, that got the biggest laugh, and it's like having Trevor yelling like, "I know him," was just awesome. The mini puffs also steal the scenes that they're in there, and you get like, again, they serve like a great little exposition bit that okay, with how they react to the brass orb that was containing Garaka. Now let's talk about the big. Speaking of the big bad, Garaka gets a lot of backstory and a lot of lore. Because this film has a very slow pace, so everything. Okay, because you get the brass orb from that demon that he sells off to Ray, and it has like PKE resonance and psychokinetic energy emanating from it. So it has the mystery of this orb and everything, and so we get to learn about Garaka's backstory, and it's like how dangerous he is over the course of the film. And then when he is finally freed, again tying back to Phoebe's mistakes, which there were, that there are two major ones. Um, is like he is clearly Karaka is presented like going to be on a much bigger level than Gozer was. Because say what you want of like Gozer the Gozerian, Gozer the Destructor, and everything. Gozer didn't exactly get to that level of like instantly, causing who knows how many off-screen deaths. Because sure we saw Gozer rip Shandor in half in Afterlife, but we don't. In terms of like pure chaos and destruction, Gozer doesn't really do much. Obviously, with Ghost running around causing havoc and everything, and this in the form of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man causing a fair amount of damage and everything. But Gozer does not really do cause the level of destruction and harm that Garaka does. Garaka gets like that big, like with it just being trapped, you can see how much damage it was capable of doing, even when confined. Oh, and when it's freed, and it's like, oh, it can freeze proton beams, and it's like it can freeze the proton beams and snap them off. So it's like that was pretty badass. It's like it was really presented as a major threat. Um, and it was like one of the coolest overall villain designs. And again, when you think about a lot of the ghosts that's been depicted in the Ghostbusters franchise over the years and like in multiple medias, like I will always love like Gozer's like human-esque form design and the terror dogs. Uh, then you go into like the animated series, it's like with the Boogeyman and the Grundle and Akira, which is more an Extreme Ghostbusters. And actually, Extreme Ghostbusters had a lot of great designs, by the way. If you've never seen that series, I highly recommend it, just for like the various designs of the various spooks and specters that are seen in that series. But Garaka is just presented as this freaking huge and massive. It's like there's an actual fear and intimidation, and of course you get the big payoff where you have like all the Ghostbusters like literally trying to form a last stand with the firehouse to protect the containment unit was really cool. Um, uh, so and it was like like, just incredible stuff there. Um, uh, and it's like the whole. Now, there's also one other thing I want to mention here, and again, it's a bit of a deep cut, and it's more of a coincidence than anything else. Because I've already talked about things in Paradise I've seen with like real Ghostbusters, and like on a couple of instances here. There was one other thing that this film does that I was only seen one other time in the Ghostbusters multiverse, for lack of a better term, and that is showing actual firefighters in residence of the of Hook and Ladder 8. The uh, the opening of this movie. in 1904, seeing ghost firefighters leaving the firehouse and report going off to a paranormal, what turned out to be a paranormal site of a paranormal incident. Um, okay, great opening, great hook to show us like, okay, this is a story that's whose origins of sorts, okay, begins like at the very least the earliest 20th century in relation to its plot. But the thing is, though, as a longtime ghost head, I can only recall one other instance that showed the Ghostbusters headquarters with what life was like in it prior to the Ghostbusters taking up residence there, and it was another episode of the real Ghostbusters where the boys and Slimer ended up time traveling back to I think the 1950s and working alongside other firefighters in dealing with some ghosts. Granted, they did not contaminate the timeline of sorts, but this changed history just a bit. And the reason why this is connected to me, because in that same episode, it opens with like the firehouse is being condemned. It's set up to be demolished, and Walter Peck wants to like condemn and tear down the firehouse outright. He says it outright. Despite all the praise I gave to his character, that's what something he wants to do. So again, okay, you have the parallels there. It's like, okay, the city is looking to tear down the firehouse for declare it condemned of sorts. So it's like little parallels. These are more like coincidences, things that I'm picking up on, like parallel again to an episode of the real Ghostbusters. Anyway, again, thoughts, opinions, random and stuff. There are plenty of spoilers of sorts. So yeah, those were everything. All my thoughts on all major elements and things. And there's other stuff I probably could have talked about. There was like, oh, one other thing. And I'm saying, and probably should have mentioned this up front, but there is one other thing I wanted to mention here. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire does an excellent job of setting things up to where obviously, if Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, and Annie Potts don't want to appear in a future film or are unable to for one reason or another, and if Paul Rudd, Carrie Coon, Grace McKinnon, Finn Wolfhard, like in don't want to reprise their roles and stuff, and it's like they want to go on and do other things and not be tied to Ghostbusters. The fact that they established that Winston has this other facility and that he's employing other researchers and stuff like that to investigate ghosts and like, okay, building up a team was like, how do you deal with ghosts? How do you contain them and everything of that sort? So that means they could easily establish a new team. As like you had the character of uh and I'm like oh, what the hell was his name? It's a character that was kind of like the scientist character that was working at this at the offsite ecto paranormal research facility, and I can't think of his name. But the fact that that they have this facility there, that okay, there could easily be like a full team of other Ghostbusters out there, so it's like that can be worked in and introduced in subsequent films. It is actually a cool thing here. So again, if anybody is unable to or doesn't want to return to the franchise in future films, they have a way of introducing new characters outright. So yeah, and it's gonna, oh boy, so it's like, because when you think about it, Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed, the video game, its entire premise of sorts is sort of based around the the idea of people being recruited and trained up to be Ghostbusters and stepping up in a large way. And that game in its own way has ties uh to the stuff with Ghostbusters Afterlife and And it's also implied that it's going to be a tie-in with that game and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. So again, like this, just realizing the stuff here, and it's going to freaking bother me that I can't remember this character's name. Oh well. With that said, I'll wrap this up here. Thank you very much. If you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. Leave your thoughts, opinions regarding Frozen Empire in the chat below. I'd love to see what you said and so forth. And in case you don't know, I do respond to like virtually every comment, positive or negative. Well, so with that said, tighten your friendship bracelet, stay safe, have a good one. Come hang out with me over on my Twitch channel. I'm often streaming there nightly. And we'll see you next time. Bye.